as well. So appreciate you hopping on here, man. It's a long time coming.
Well, I appreciate you having me, man, and inspired to see you doing this.
Yeah, we're gonna dive into this today with the making an immediate impact, how to make an immediate impact at the next level, and so when you get to college, and I think it's really interesting, man, because it's obviously multifaceted, right? That success early takes a lot, and we'll get into that, but it's not just when you get there, it's years of preparation to make someone really ready once they're there. So we'll get into that and talk a little bit more stuff going on. So, but we're going to just dive in, and I want to just kind of start, man, as we get into this. Obviously, I know you. We've known each other for a long time now. I think highly of you. You've done a really good job everywhere you've been. You've been at some successful places, which I think is awesome. You now work for someone that I really respect, that I think does an amazing job, and James Ramsey. I think James is one of the best in the country at what he does, as the new head coach at Georgia Tech, right? So, so excited for what you guys are doing there, and what, what's ahead and all that. But can you just give the listener a background, your background, where you came from, how did you get to Georgia Tech? Take them through that so that we can get them up to speed on your experience and your background.
For sure, and I am very blessed to be sitting here wearing this polo, getting to be representing an incredible program. My journey is a little atypical for people in the ACC. From my end as a player, I'm from College Station, Texas. I was raised by two non-athletic parents that I love dearly. That
That's good, man.
that raised a
That's
son that
good.
fell in baseball, but grew up in a household that valued academics. And for me, my passion for the game was mirrored by the fact that my parents wanted me to be focused on getting the most out of what's happening between my ears. And where that led me was as a 5'8", maybe 5'9" on a good day in cleats, left-handed pitcher throwing 78 to 80. Texas A&M and my dream school, Rice, weren't really knocking to add that. Crazy enough, I thought maybe that'd get into Omaha, but that didn't work out.
Right,
My
right.
path as a Texas kid, where a lot of my teammates ended up in a 3-hour radius, was different because the academic side led me to something called the Head First baseball camps, which led me to a lot of schools I could have never even pointed to on a map, which even crazier led me to the University of Rochester in upstate New York, being buried in snow for 4 years. But that was just, I was extremely blessed. I felt called there. It was the best place I could have grown. Joe
Yeah.
Reyna, to this day, is an incredible mentor for me at Rochester. But instead of following the typical plan of people with that type of degree, which is you go do type A things, you go to law school, work in finance, go to New York City, I decided I wanted to waste my time and get into college coaching. And we could go on the crazy story of how a breakup with a high school girlfriend led me from going to go to law school to get into coaching. But my career started with graduating, finishing my time at Rochester, and jumping on staff. Actually, before that, coaching in the Perfect Game League for literally hot dogs and post-game pasta with the Victor Real Riders. Be enough to hop on with Pomona stagehands out at Pomona Pitzer Colleges in Los Angeles for a year with Frank Pericolosi as their pitching coach.
Yeah.
Randomly in the summer, crossed paths with Todd Interdonato, the now head coach at Boston College, while he was at Wofford. Interviewed for a job. They did not give me the pitching coach job, was not nearly ready for it, but offered me a volunteer assistant position. Spent 2 years down there at Wofford as an assistant pitching coach, learning the base running side from Todd. Ended up getting linked with Tucker Frawley at Yale, of all places, and ended up going up to Yale for 3.5 years as recruiting coordinator, base running, team mom, whatever role you could draw up there. Got, at the time, and giving a lot of context here, met a woman. Her ended up marrying her, but her family moved to South Carolina during COVID, which means when Wofford came calling again to come back, rejoined the staff at Wofford College as a pitching coach. Then this past year in the summer of 24, Ramsey and I have gotten to know each other extremely well, which would be another 10-minute convo alone, Justin, just to explain. But
This is so
opening
good.
opening came up with the Georgia Tech staff. Ramsey and I had a previous relationship, and it led to a conversation with Danny Hall, and it was just the perfect timing to come on staff with Georgia Tech. And where I sit right now is the byproduct of a lot of blessing, a lot of luck lining up, but honestly having a lot of really good people pour into my life over the last 15 years now. And I could not be more grateful to be sitting here, not because of the logo, not because of the program, but this journey has been so special and enriched my lives in ways I could have never imagined.
It's so good. It's so good, Josh. I appreciate the insight. And I mean, I've known you for a while now, and I do think that there's something to be said for the individuals that, in the college circle anyways, that the work doesn't go unnoticed usually, right? Like I've always said that, like a lot of up and coming coaches I start talking to, and they're getting to know me and know that I've been in the industry a long time and all that. And I always tell them, like, if you just put your head down and work sometimes, it won't go unnoticed. Like, and you're one of those guys, man. Like, you're obviously really talented, but I have just always found you to be extremely organized, always very responsive, always getting after it, always open to conversation, ideas, learning. I mean, it's a growth mindset, right? So I just really appreciate that side of it. I think Georgia Tech's obviously an awesome fit. Um, if I, it's not like you're asking me for this, but I think you're going to be an awesome head coach someday. I really believe that. I've thought that for a long time. And if my kid, I have two young girls, so they're not going to have the chance at this one. But if I had a kid, I would want them to play for you someday, man. I really mean that. I think very highly of you, Josh, and I appreciate, the backdrop on everything that you're doing and how you got here. I think it's amazing too, man. When you start getting across the country and going to different places and the connections and the stories behind that, man, it's people have no idea, like what living on nothing is, right? Maybe sleeping on couches or what you're eating. It's like, yeah, exactly. Just take some deep breaths, man. But anyways, I appreciate you coming on and giving the backdrop. I want to like hop into this because there's a lot to like dive into with this, right? And we were texting about this, and it's just when you talk about today's game, it's so difficult to make an impact right away. And let's just look specifically at Division I level for right now, because that's where you're at. But this actually, we could take this to any level now. Like if that's the level you're, probably going to play at, Division II, Division III, I mean, junior college now, like the trickle down of the talent is so good right now that it is really difficult to understand how hard it is to go in somewhere and make an impact. And I think, and not just that, Josh, and we'll get to this, but it's not just making an impact, but if you don't make some strong impression in a positive way in today's landscape, it is really tough to be somewhere for a year or two if you don't do something to flash quick. You basically have a year, like, and then from there it's an assessment, right? Like, and that's how it is, right? Especially at the Division I level, especially, in the ACC, where you're at, in a lot of the Power Fours and all that. But that's just college baseball. So let's get to the question. So with today's recruiting landscape, like, what are some of the difference-making tools and traits you look for in players in the high school process to give you that player that can come in and make that impact?
Yeah, and before even getting to that, I think the toughest thing that we've all been up against the wall since COVID in 2020 with how new rules, but it seems like every single year is changing, to use a big word here, the market equilibrium of what high school recruiting is. Back in 2019, 2020, where the portal was a thing, but not really. Like, it wasn't a big explosive thing. You'd have big freshman classes, people were getting drafted, there's a lot more rounds, there's a lot more stuff going on, right? And you add in the fact that since 2020, we have shrunk the draft. There is less people going into pro ball. There's less positions. You can't just hoard people in pro ball. You have this gluttony of extra eligibility that keeps popping out of nowhere. God forbid the new DSA stuff and how we try to, cut down roster sizes. And now there's basically no roster sizes. It's institution dependent. It's just a mess. And right now, the pressure always gets pushed down somewhere, right? Like, hey, they raise taxes on a business, customers have to pay it. That's pretty simple stuff. If they have the business that's going to eat it, it's the customers that have to eat the cost, right? And right now, the biggest customers eating the cost are high school seniors, because there's more and more demands placed on them to be ready to go right away versus the 2 years of sitting around, taking your time, getting your feet wet, and then waiting for those guys in front of you to graduate. Because for better or worse, you're competing with portal kids coming in over the top of you. You're, going against other high schoolers potentially underneath you. And there's just more of an expectation. And honestly, going even to the pro ball side, that you've got to show up and play, or you may get passed over really quickly. And from our end, every level will obviously have like the actual, the scout tools you're looking to see. You've got to match the level you're at with, if you're a pitcher, with not only velocity, but having an out pitch that can play right away, that you could show up in an inter squad as a freshman and at least do enough to survive, right? Like you walk in right away and you are in survival mode by stuff and having an out pitch. On the offensive side, you can find a way to squirrel out a lot of hits. We have a guy in the bigs right now, Chandler Simpson, who is hitting 300 with every metric screaming he is an underperforming player. The reality is
James Ramsey begged me on him, man. Begged me on him when I was with the Brewers, man. Like, I won't forget that one. Ramsey was all about that kid, man. But going back to what you're saying.
But he's the outlier compared to where this is, where you've got to slam baseballs now. You've got to have a certain threshold of EVs that you can beat infielders and you can find a way to burn outfielders. And that doesn't mean home runs, but it's torching balls in the gap to be a base producer. There's a certain offensive skill set you have to have that fits that level, or you're going to be behind the eight ball in a development role. And development in this day and age often leads to, hey, man, you're going to end up somewhere else, as bad as it is. And defensively, like, you've got to be able to play and stick somewhere at the level you're at. The kiss of death in this day and age is being a positionless right bat, for better or worse. And you hate it because it's all scout talk, and in some ways it's tougher maybe high schoolers and parents to get it, but you've got to be able to play some position that's not first base or not a bad right field. And having a combination of those things just from the talent side is going to give you at least some type of leg to compete right away. But the biggest separator, man, is just between the ears, coming in and having a really confident understanding of what you do well. And there's a lot of layers we can unpack with this, I imagine we're going to get into, man. But the biggest separator we've seen with our guys who've been successful and honestly who have struggled has been, how much do you know you're a good player? How much do you know your game? But how coachable are you inside your own confidence of how can you adapt your game to fit the demands of playing at a level of competition you've never seen before?
So good, man. So many pieces of that, what you just brought up. I made a bunch of notes. Like, the first thing that I want to say is, at this point in the process, like in high school, if you are outside of these positions, pitcher, shortstop, center field, and catcher, it is going to be harder, right? It's going to be even harder. So if you're going, let's just say you're a third baseman and you can't shift over and that's like where you're stuck, you better be an elite hitter, hit for power, and be very good defensively over there with a big arm. You have to come with enough tools to stick there then and compete at that position, because that's really tough. So in my mind, as I look at like the process, we're starting to get into this, like, it really becomes focused on certain positions now too. And if you're outside of that, you better be very, very special, like special. And I've had players that I've worked with that have turned down draft money, that have gone to Division I's and not been able to get on the field. Like, those are special players, right? And so there's a lot of this that we'll talk about more, but I want to go back to the mental piece and hit into that right now, because I think when we think about a lot of this of how players fit in and how they do it, and, being able to compete right away, and the tools and all of that is absolutely true, as you touched on. Like, you have to do those things. But the ability mentally to go into big moments and be able to handle pressure and be able to handle like the moments. I mean, that's what we're talking about. Like, and I think of, not to get into, talking about your team or anything, but like, I think of like a player like Drew Rogers is a good example. Like, yes, like there's obviously a lot of things that Drew like continues to work on to get better, but like as a freshman could step in big moments and absolutely handle those. Like, that's where he was at, right? And there are a lot of other players that you've had and that currently have and all that. But the point is that that is a big piece of it. So I want to kind of go there for a second before we go to anything else, because I think there's a lot of people when they listen, they think, okay, that's all great. Like, okay, so I understand the tool side. I think most people understand the general idea of how to develop their tools and where they kind of need to be. But then you have to perform, not just like have those in a cage or on a mound in a pen. You have to perform. But let's talk about the mental side, because that's really an area, Josh, where I think players can do a lot of work before they get there. And as I think about Drew Rogers, he has done, I mean, his dad's a mental performance coach, right? He has done so much work mentally to prepare himself as well. Can you talk about that a little bit, where, you know, with the players that you've had, the mental side of it and the ability to kind of handle some things that other players, it's maybe overwhelming for them, even if they have all the physical tools? Talk about that as a separator, because I think that alone can change some things for a player, whether it's going to work or not, and make an impact.
No question. No question. It's ironic, interesting, pick whatever, you know, adverb, adjective you want here on this, that we all want the clout of wearing cool uniforms, playing in big environments, playing meaningful games. But people don't understand just how tough it is to thrive in those environments until you're there. And everybody wants the smoke until they start choking. Like, everybody wants it. And like, hey, like our last game of the year, and keep in mind, I was used in my college career to playing in front of 50 fans in freezing cold temperatures in Western New York. Our last game of the year is in front of 11,000 fans at Ole Miss. You want to talk about, and hey man, it's do or die for us. Like, this is our season on the line. We're talking about the last day of a career for, you know, one of the, you know, winningest coaches in college baseball, and all that pressure that gets added on top of everything. Yep. You add in the uncertainty of a job search on top of it too, that players feel whether they like it or not. And you find out real quick as a freshman just how tough you are. And we have 11,000 people on top of you calling you names, going at you. So the point I want to get at here isn't just talking about that Ole Miss is a pretty insane environment. It's the fact that there's a lot of work that needs to start as soon as you start getting real about this recruiting thing, about holding yourself to a higher standard with how you play the game, how you train, how you focus, how you're vulnerable with yourself, with failure. Because the reality is coach talk is, as we make this phrase, you are going to experience failure at every level. Heck, today in batting practice, we had a freshman that for over 2 rounds left the cage a total of 2 times, the turtle, in batting practice. He's a really, really good player. He has incredible tools. Our machine that we had on the field today was really challenging. You want to talk about having to deal with vulnerability and dealing with a lot of failure? That's punching you on the face in a Thursday afternoon at a random August practice, man. Yeah. And where this peels back to starting with the high school player is you need to have an understanding that you, number one, need to do hard things to build mental calluses, whether you like it or not. You need challenging workouts. You need failure to make you better. If you only have belly rubbing success, easy cage work, easy ground balls, easy bullpens, what are you going to do when the pressure gets ratcheted up and all of a sudden your heart's beating fast and you don't know how to operate inside of it? So I think the number one factor with this is, you know, talking about the development side, you have to get in challenging environments. To flip back to recruiting is, we do not want to watch guys hit 72-mile-per-hour arms in World with Bat pool play games. Yeah, man, it's a reality. It happens. It's no shot at those kids. I threw 78 in high school. It's no shot at them. We want to see them play in really difficult environments. We want to see guys play in the PBR future games, in area code underclass, really strenuous environments, because that's going to mirror what's going to happen at this level. You're always going to have scouts around. You're always going to have outside noise. You're always going to have pressure and expectations. Fans trying to gas you up, people trying to place expectations on you. And as we go through the evaluation process, a huge separator for us is, can this kid handle himself in pressure? Do we trust him? Do we trust him as a guy that in the game can get himself to reset and stay calm? And as coach talk as this sounds, does he have some stone cold killer in him? Is he a winner? Deep down, is his defining trait, is he a winner? Which is not something you say. It's something you have to do and prove every time you're out. And those things, even if you are a D3 tool set, D3 guys have to go win a national championship.
Yes.
NIA plays for a title. JUCO plays for a title. And sometimes it's more competitive than the low end of D1 baseball. The reality of it, man, is that there's levels that are lower on down that people don't associate as good that are more competitive than low end D1 baseball. But the winning tool, that sixth tool, that is going to be the rising tide that raises every bit of that on-field skill set to make you a winner when it matters most.
Oh, man, I love that stuff. I want to ask you on this. So you talk about building trust. Let's just use, and I like people to hear this. So it's the fall, right? So let's just say you're starting your practices, you're getting some things going, you're going to get some fall ball going, some games. What are some things that you look for? I mean, some of the guys are proven, right? So not that they don't have to keep proving it, they do, but like some of the guys have some credibility where your eyes aren't as glued to them because it's like, I know what I'm getting out of him. He's already been here for 2 years. I know exactly what he is, right? Still want him to get better, still want to push all that. But let's just take the freshman. Can you talk about what you're looking for the fall of their freshman year and the things that stand out where you're just like, yes, sign me up for that. Yes, I trust that. Yes, he's doing this. He's building that trust with us because trust is huge. You guys have to trust it, right? What are some of those things that you see, whether it's on the field or off, that builds that for you, Josh?
I think the word we like to use, which once again can be overused a lot here, Justin, is we want to see them be professional in how they approach their day to day. Like we want them to be professional. And the reality for our guys is they've got a pretty cushy setup. They've got a phenomenal facility. They have phenomenal tools for development. They have what we believe is a coaching staff that is really invested in their growth. They have an incredible degree. Their living situation, if I threw it on the screen, everybody would be mad seeing their 10th floor pool and the yoga room that Drew Rogers does yoga overlooking Midtown Atlanta. Like it's a joke, right? But the trade-off with it is that we need them to prove that they can handle all of these good resources in a way where they take advantage of it and take advantage of the opportunity of being here. And a conversation I had with one of our freshmen, this was back in July. He's in summer school. He's here, local kid at the facility hidden. He's asking, hey, man, how should I approach this fall? And I asked him, what are your goals for this fall? And he starts listing off some things. And I'm like, no, I'm going to make this simple for you. I'm going to tell you your goals. If you can look at the end of this fall and your teammates know this, and us as coaches, we'll say together, teammates plus coaches, they know that you work hard. There is no question of your work ethic. They know you're tough, that you can get pushed, you can get challenged, and that you're going to bounce back. They're going to know you're a good teammate on those two things alone, and that's going to build trust. The other part of that too is your goal should be how much can I grow? Not just say learning, because you could sit here and read a book, but if you ain't retaining that when it matters most, if you go read Ted Williams' book on hitting, but you can't apply it to make you a better hitter, it don't really matter. Right. So we want to see out of our freshmen, basically it's 4 things. Can you prove you're tough? Can you prove that you work hard? Can you prove you're a good teammate, which has all other factors too on and off the field? And can you prove you're willing to grow? If you do those 4 things, you're going to have trust at the end of the day. Sure, you may have on-field performance that dictates more. We were fortunate, our ACC Freshman of the Year, Alex Hernandez, he's a pretty good player. He missed the early start of the fall with a random scooter injury, which we won't get into. I have beef with scooters, Justin. It's a lot, man.
Get them off the scooters, man. Get them off the scooters.
We had one of our guys actually get hit by a car before one of our games. And not his fault. Not his fault this spring, but
I'm laughing because I know he's okay.
He pitched that game. Pitched that game. And he did great. He actually had one of his best relief outings of the year. And anyways, mid-game, and we're getting off.
Oh, my goodness, dude.
There's a close call, and our pitching coach goes, and I think we'll just use an umpire's name, Justin. Justin, he got hit by a car, man. You got to help him out. Come on. Mid-game chirps and midway games.
That's so good, man.
But
that's toughness. That's toughness.
That is toughness. Get hit by a car and go out and throw good. I don't think you can really replicate that in the practice setting. I don't think Ramsey wants us trying that.
Oh my goodness, man! I love that story.
But
so good.
Look, Hernandez had 4 weeks where it was insane. Hit over 400, 1,300 OPS and limited ABs. But that's some trust you build with on-field credibility.
Yeah.
Sure, performance does matter to trust. But when you talk about like wanting to establish a long-term path in the program, if you can do those 4 things of the hard work, being tough, be a good teammate, and at the end of the day, show you're willing to grow, coaching staffs are going to stay invested in you. And if they don't, they're honestly not probably the people you want to be around anyways, for better or worse.
I love it, man. I want to give a really quick story that an SEC pitching coach friend of mine shared with me. And he said in the fall, he does it with every freshman at some point. They don't know that he's doing it. They have no idea. It's just something he does. So I'm not going to share the name at school, but he said that he'll let them get hit, like when they're getting hit a little bit, not a lot, but like when they get into an outing, and he'll go out there just to like test if they want to come out. So he'll say, hey, I'm thinking about taking you out here. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you think? And he's either looking for them to say like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. You know, my arm, I don't know. I'm just not feeling good today. He's looking for like that. Do they want out? Not injury related, obviously, if they're injured. He's looking for, do you want out? Or are you going to say, no, man, no, I'm good. I'm good. I want this one. I want this. Like, and it's these simple little things that you're testing as a coach, right? I mean, and you could give me 5,000 other examples, but I think as you listen to this, if you're a player or parent, I think you just have to understand that it's not just about performance. And you said this, and I say it all the time: don't back down. Fight. Like, be out there fighting. Like, if you go out to take a guy out, or if somebody's trying to like replace somebody in the lineup, like, you don't want them to be happy. Do you want them like throwing their helmet and acting like a bad teammate? No, but like you want them to fight for it. You want them to like want another shot. You want, like, there are things that you can do as a player once you get there that really does show that. And that's kind of what I was getting at. And you hit on a lot of things with it, but like the trust is built as like with many, many different things of like, do you want this? Like, can we put you out there and know that you're not going to be phased and that you'll fight? Like, we need you to fight for us, like, and compete, right? Like, because that ultimately, like, an at bat is a competition, right? So like, you have to think about some of those things as well. And I think, honestly, man, you hit on it. Like, when someone gets hit, like punched in the mouth for the first time, or they just kind of get, keep getting hit a little bit, like, it's very frustrating. And some of them have not experienced it at this level. And then, everybody else around you is great. Like, it doesn't, you said this, if you're at a good Division III, you're not walking in there as the best player, probably. Like, unless you're really, really good. Like, good Division IIIs now, like, it's different. Like, it is different, man. I mean, and so you can do this at any level. And so you have to walk in and feel like you're trying to compete. Like, you want to compete for something. So I love that, man. So I'm going to kind of move forward a little bit on this. So in thinking about the impact freshmen that you've been around, you kind of just touched on this a little bit. But what are some of the traits that, like, if you had to take like specific things that they do? You talked about like being a professional, right? Which I love, because that speaks volumes. There's a lot of things that you can take away from, like, yeah, just act like a pro. Like, people kind of know what that means. But what are some of the specific things, whether it's physically or mentally, some of the traits that you've seen these guys have that have really like got them to a point where they're succeeding right away?
I think one of the most important things, I'll start on the position player side, because I think it's a little bit cleaner than the arm side, because you've been around. I mean, crazy things can happen with pitchers, right? Like,
totally. Yep.
There is a certain level of physicality you have to have at every level you're at to walk in and be the part. And that doesn't mean there's a certain bench press, a certain squat, but there is a certain filled out development you need to have to be able to walk in and handle, honestly, the stress of seasons. Because for most people in high school, and hey, man, I grew up in Texas. We played a lot of baseball. We played more high school baseball than a lot of people. It's not the same as playing 4 games a day, or 4 games, a week at the college level at a minimum, right? And the biggest gap we see a lot of freshmen struggle with at times is, do they get beat down during the season because their physicality isn't where they need to be? And look, Drew Burris, who we are obviously very, very fortunate to have around here, Drew Burris is all 5'9". You will never see him winning any type of dunk contest. He can throw down, but he's not going to win a dunk contest at 6'5". But Drew's physicality from day one has never been a question in this program. He's a grown man for his frame, and he could carry going through 56 games without any issue his freshman year because he put the time in the weight room to be there. So I do think one thing that does at times get lost in the circuit of, and we do it down here with the East Cobb Lake Point culture, is you got to play, you got to play, you got to play. Hey, man, you've got to walk in physically ready for the demands of what's going on. Yep. I think the second part of going to the mental side here for position players is the game needs to get slow. I was at yesterday, high A, one of our former players was fortunate enough, cleared camp after getting drafted this year up in high A, hour 15 from us. I'm sitting there as just a spectator, blown away at how quick high A games go. It's way quicker than college baseball. You go from watching college baseball to going to any summer game, high school, whatever it is. The pace of play is just very different in a slower way for high school than compared to college. Getting adjusted to that, the 20-second pitch clock, things moving a little quicker, you being able to stick to your plan, your process, and not feeling like the game is moving at warp speed, especially when you get punched in the face, especially when you're dealing with more velo than you've ever seen before. All those things, like the most successful freshmen are able to have slow heartbeats as they navigate the game versus the EKG machine of big hit, I'm freaking out, I crashed out, I'm breaking my helmet, hey, I got one more hit, I'm great, oh wait, I'm terrible. Like we've all seen it, but the best of the best can find at least some type of baseline. They know that they're going to be good with where they're at. Some guys are more high key, some guys are more low key. They just know what works for them. And getting to the pitcher side, I think, man, like you talked about attacking and not backing down. This is a really difficult time to be a pitcher. Bats are getting hot again. We don't need to go into the balls and ball conspiracies of how hot the balls are. Ballparks and physicality out of hitters it's not fun. You've got to have some cojones to pitch in this day and age. And there's a certain level of fearlessness you have to have of not getting contact shy, trusting you have good stuff. And in that confrontation where you have more developed grown men than you at 18, 19 years old, you have to be the one that wants to truly win that confrontation and not get a little gun shy just because you're dealing with guys who've been honestly around the block a little bit more than you have.
Yep. I love that, man. I think when you hit on all this stuff, I mean, you talked about physicality. I mean, this is a whole nother topic in itself, but when we talk about physicality, we're talking about the strength training side of it, right? But we're also talking about the nutrition side of it. And those are pieces too of discipline that it takes to prepare to get somewhere. So we talk about sleep, nutrition, strength training, speed and agility work, all this stuff with the physicality, explosiveness, what you're doing. I don't know how many players I've talked to over the course of my career, whether it's Major League Baseball or, doing advising work, where they do so many things right, and then they get 7 hours sleep and they eat like garbage. And it's like, man, without those two components, like the others don't connect, right? And so a lot of it's discipline. So anyone listening to this too, there are so many things you can do individually that you can completely control with nutrition and sleep and training that cost nothing more than what you're eating, right? Like what you're shopping for at the grocery store is just maybe a little bit different. And it doesn't mean like not having a burger and pizza once in a while. I'm not saying that, but like really locking in on it, right? Like, and this might be something that I don't know if you can attest to this, but I've seen this a lot. The guys that are locked in all categories and have been for a little while, the adjustment is also easier because they have that sort of like performance edge, performance mindset of what do I need to do to perform the best? This sweet potato is going to help me more tomorrow than, French fries. So I'm going to go sweet potato here right now. Like all of that stuff matters because you're trying to gain the smallest edges. But here's what's amazing about this. And like I said, this is a whole nother topic. But when you talk about making immediate impact, the physicality has to be there and the performance has to be there. And then you think about the mental performance, Josh, and you think about the academic piece that they're taking on and all this stuff. If you are not disciplined with your sleep and nutrition, all of that other stuff takes a hit. It does. So you don't have the resilience you don't have the stress resilience. It's a fact. If you're going on 5 hours sleep and you go to practice, and you go to practice and you're trying to battle through like a tough day of practice, it's not the same. Your brain doesn't handle that the same as coming off an 8-hour night's sleep. It doesn't. And then you stack those on top of each other, right? And you get into a season and you start stacking those on each other. It's like, it doesn't work. And so you have to think about your game as a whole, the holistic approach to performance. And this is where I think the talented players, even if we say 5+ years ago, maybe could have gotten away with a little bit more. They still had to do a lot of those things. But like, I think in today's game, we're going to see a movement to where like all of that stuff really starts impacting the edges. And if you're trying to get the edges in the ACC or other Division I schools or even Division III, like, it doesn't matter. You got to get the edges. So what are your thoughts on that, Josh?
I mean, amen for starters. Amen.
There we go. There we go.
But the thing that is phenomenal. I think you took that is as concise of a way as you can put down to the dilemma that, for better or worse, high schoolers are facing now. And whether we like it or not, and I can say this, I do not like where we are at right now with college athletics. It is a gross, slimy time where a model that was never built to be professional sports is now getting it forced down its throat to become professional overnight. It is becoming a business. It is becoming cutthroat, and it's cutting a lot of honestly, the developmental focused things, not even talking player development. We're talking life development. Because the reality is, we're talking about our team this year. And this, I'll get a sidebar to get back to the main point here. We're going to have a pretty talented team, man. And we're very fortunate. There's a lot of things that lined up. We have 4 guys in Baseball America's top 35 projected top prospects in the 26th draft. That's an awesome thing.
Yep.
How many of those guys are going to make it to the bigs and get 6 years into free agency and have big time money? I don't know. We'd like all of them, but percentages say that maybe 1 or 2 will. We want all 4 of those guys too. We love it. The reality is, though, the numbers speak to the fact that a lot of these guys' careers are going to end well short of making big time money at the major league level. If we're not equipping them to live a life using this degree to leverage it to the best of their life experiences, knowing how to carry themselves as a father, as a husband, how to deal with adversity, how to honestly work through tough times. Like, what are we doing? And as much as we wish we want to keep that going, all of us, especially players, are stuck navigating a more professional environment, even at D3, because there are better players, the talent pool is deeper, and there's less spots to go around. If you cannot approach things talking professionally of wanting to create your own edge in whatever way, you're going to get beat out by somebody else. And if you're okay with mediocrity, by all means, man, go have fun, go do your thing, go have a good experience, whatever. If you're truly chasing success, I know Nick Saban's brought this up, Justin Moad, who, rest in peace, everything from his end about them, the mental side. It's the illusion of choice. If you want to be good, there's not really a choice. You're going to do things in a certain way. And if you don't want to be good, you're just not going to do those. You may out-talent certain things, but if you're truly trying to make it in baseball, at some point your talent will stop getting you that far, and you have to do the edges better than other people.
Yep. I love that, man. I think when you kind of like summarize everything that you did, it just, when you talk about like choice and what they're willing to do and give up, it really becomes as simple as like, how bad do you want it? Like, is this what you want, right? And that's like you said it. If it's not what you want, you'll figure it out really quick, right? Because it's like, you're gonna have to do all these things right, most likely, to gain that. But those are the things that, as we talk about how to make an immediate impact, right? Those are things that you guys notice as coaches. That's what kids need to realize. Their sleep routines usually. What they're doing at night. What they're doing on the weekends. You see what they're eating, man. Like, it's not like you're in a constant judgment, because we're all people and you want people to be relaxed in themselves. But that's the reality, man. That's the reality. I got a call from another SEC pitching coach, speaking of those, 2 years ago, and he said, "Hey man, like I'm having problems with this guy. I want your help on this. Like, what are your thoughts?" I know he's staying up till 3, 4 in the morning playing video games. Like, he's so talented, but like, we can't have him doing that. And I said, "How do you know this?" He's like, "We know everything." But that's the point, right? Like, other guys are saying that, or teammates are frustrated, right? Because it's like, you're not coming to practice fresh, man. Like, all of this stuff, like, it's not, I just want players to know that, parents know that, like, coaches know so much more than people realize. And it's not just about watching on the field for what they do in a fall ball game or at practice. It's the whole piece of it, right? And all of that stuff adds up to, like, do we believe he can be successful here or not? That's my point. At the end of the year, when that evaluation happens and that end of the year meeting comes and you're like, "Hey, what is the future of this guy?" That is the entirety of how they operate as a professional. That's it. Like, you look at all of those things. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I think people way too often just look at, like, well, he hit 320 in the fall, he did this, and it's like, it's not just that though. Like, you're talking about one piece of probably 50 that are being evaluated on how he handled this year. So do you want to just touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest misconceptions, that we have is, we are, and I can't speak to every program. I'm just going to speak for Georgia Tech, because there are some ruthless, cold people out there in college baseball now. Like, you and I both know it.
Yep.
We love our players. We want to see them be successful. We are rooting for every single one of them. Better yet, if they do well, it helps all of us. It does. But when we have been entrusted to lead this program, that is a big responsibility. It is. And that means that we're already telling no to a lot of people out of high school about who we let in. But number one, like, before getting into who we're picking, is we have a responsibility to represent Georgia Tech the right way through this baseball program. They invest in it significantly. They give us phenomenal resources. They support us. We are responsible for putting the best product on the field. We're also responsible for representing Georgia Tech in the community. And as coach talk as that sounds, if our guys are messing around in the classroom at Georgia Tech, we're going to hear about it. If our guys are acting a fool in Midtown Atlanta, we're going to hear about it. We are responsible for carrying this banner in a way that reflects a really prestigious school. And we're accountable to the people above us. We're already crazy for putting our livelihood in the hands of 18 to 22-year-olds. Like, we are crazy for doing this on the whims of 18 to 18-year-olds and how they feel day to day. And the relationships they have, the mental stuff, the breakups, all of it. Like, we've all been there. But because of the volatility of how difficult it is to win, we have to be really selective of who we trust to be in this clubhouse, for better or worse. Yep. And for better or worse, like, that trust is something that if it gets broken, if we feel like the guy is not pulling the same direction as us, we are going to get rid of him as fast as we can. Not because it's a cold-hearted business, but we're responsible for taking care of this place. We have to put food on the table as coaches. And this ain't about our paychecks, man. It's about the fact that this is a responsibility that we are trying to uphold at the highest standard. And if we can't trust players to take care of each other, if we can't trust players to be good teammates with each other, we're going to find somebody else who will. There's enough talented players out there that we will find somebody who can fill that roster spot, one of 34 golden tickets we have, and that guy is going to be willing to run through a brick wall to be here. And it's just that simple.
I love that, man. We're on the same page. There's so much more to it when you're talking about, like, the culture side of it too. And this is even, I mean, I don't think people realize it, and it's maybe not as much because the expectations are just different. But I mean, even at the Major League Baseball, when we talk about the big leagues, there's still an expectation of how they fit within the culture. And it happens every year where fans are surprised by a trade, for example. And within the organization, the trade had nothing to do with the ability. It was that they didn't fit with the culture. They're not doing stuff behind the scenes that they need them to do. And it's creating problems, right? And maybe, as we know, players can wear out their welcome. It might be, a simple 1-year signing or something. But the point is that this stuff happens all the time because you're trying to like work off of the culture. So just to wrap this up, and as we do, appreciate everybody being on here tonight. And if the one's live, if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat, and I'll throw them at Josh here tonight, and we'll get through those. But as we kind of wrap up, man, such good stuff here, and I appreciate all of your insight. And this is obviously a really in-depth topic. But if you had to give, your just 30 to 60 seconds of summarizing to a high school player, parent, maybe even a youth player, on how they can prepare and be ready to go in at some level and make an impact as a freshman, what would you tell them?
Winning is really, really difficult. And until you appreciate just how tough winning is, you're never going to understand the amount of work it takes to get there and how protective you have to be of the details to make that a reality. This is a ruthless, cold thing now, but on the same flip side, you can't let it take your joy that this is still playing a game. And if at some point you lose sight that this is a kid's game we have to play and you get caught up in the business, you're going to lose sight of the fact that it is a blessing to do this. So there's two sides of this. You have to handle the details really well to walk into a college program right now and be ready to go. But if you're also not the guy that loves this, like really loves it and believes in the good it brings your life, this is never going to be worth it, man. All the work, all of the bloody hard stuff you're going to go through, it ain't going to mean anything if your heart isn't in the right place that this is really what you want to do. So as much as we've had a little doom and gloom at times talking how tough this is, Justin, like I have the best job in America. I get to go to work every day with kids I love, working with one of my closest friends in James Ramsey. This is a massive blessing. And if I lose sight of that, I also don't get to appreciate that I have to earn the right to have this job by working really hard. And players then lose sight of the fact that they get to wear this logo and be in an awesome program if they don't appreciate that they have to earn their way to be there all the time too.
So good, man. I love your insight. I think it's very, very clear. I'm so thankful I got to have you on here and appreciate it so much. As we wait, I'll kind of go to the questions. I had some questions messaged to me earlier. If anyone's on and has a question, throw it in the chat. I'll get to it, but I'm going to get to some of the questions here just to kind of wrap up. So some of these are kind of fun, man. So this is a simple one, and I think it's more for people's enjoyment. Sometimes there's some funny ones, but Dan asked, he must have done some research on your background, but said, out of every place you've been, what's your favorite restaurant?
Oh man, favorite restaurant. I'm a sucker for kava in the summer. Like the fact I don't have a kava partnership by now, some type of NIL deal is out of hand. I think my favorite one, and this is going to be off the wall here, is New Haven, Connecticut, Pita Ziki. Pita Ziki got me through a lot of times as a young assistant, man. So Pita Ziki, New Haven, Connecticut, unreal Greek food.
That's awesome, man. I'm a sucker for that stuff too, man. When I used to be able to eat a bunch of gluten, and now I can't. So let's get to the second one here. This is a good one too. So it's a longer one, but I'll summarize it. So basically, what are your favorite types of players to recruit? So it's a longer question, but it's basically like, do you have a specific like prototype that you're going after, you personally, when you recruit?
I love guys that play with a chip on their shoulder. They play with their hair on fire. And it's not just the Johnny hustle of hard 90s, backing up bases, but you watch them play and you can't take your eyes off them because they're just playing with a certain healthy anger. Those are the type of guys for me that I'm just going to sit there and want to get some popcorn from Lake Point and sit back and enjoy the show.
I like that, man. That's a really good answer. So as a player, what was your biggest struggle?
My biggest struggle was adjusting to being a PO in college. Always was a primary outfielder in high school, and pitching was some of a thing, but adjusting to actually knowing how to handle my craft and have a routine, have a process. It took me 2.5 years, man. Honestly, it took me 3 years of college to figure that out.
Okay, I like that, man. Okay, so Georgia Tech. What makes Georgia? This is a really good one from Andy. What makes Georgia Tech special?
So I was thinking about this yesterday on a run around our campus, not trying to flex on, hey, I'm working out. Um, Georgia Tech is the only Power Four school in the heart of downtown of one of the biggest cities in the country. It's the only one to start there, man. It's the only one that is truly in downtown, public school in the heart of a major city. Number two, with that, it's the only one that's high academic. On top of that, too, it's the only place, it is the best public STEM school in the country, and it's not even particularly close. You have all those factors together, and it is a melting pot of students, athletics, culture. Atlanta culture is something else to begin with, man. Huge Black culture presence here, hip hop, all of it, man. James Ramsey, huge shout out for him being a massive hip hop head and getting this right.
There we go. All right, there we go.
Such a mixture of everything thrown together that there's honestly not a place like it in the country where the big city, the skyscrapers, the real campus feel that you just have to be here to experience it.
I like that, man. Okay, so this is another good one. I'll summarize this a little bit longer, but basically, when do you start recruiting players now? So it's essentially the question was like, used to start earlier for you guys. When do you kind of start looking at players? When is a good timeline for players to kind of be ready in the process for a school like yours?
Our biggest evaluation period is going to happen in the summer before junior year. That's just the reality of it now. We're going to watch a lot of guys. The benefit of being at East Cobb and Lake Point is we're going to see a lot of guys. And you obviously have Hoover to carry. Everything's within 7 hours for us. Now, the flip side is some guys still develop late.
Yeah.
Some guys pop up later. And we are keeping our evaluation for high schoolers open as long as possible, just because for us, like rushing to get a class done doesn't do us any good if the kids aren't good enough, and they're not going to help us win an ACC title and go to Omaha. We are going to keep ourselves stretched out and maintain spots in our classes to keep room in case guys do develop later or situations change.
I like that. And I would add into this, I think I'll speak on behalf of what I think is the landscape in that question, because you're speaking on behalf of Georgia Tech. I think now more than ever, I think schools are very okay with holding a spot or two and getting it right versus rushing. And so, like, I've seen this a lot more. So we're looking at the 2026 class a lot more right now. So let's think about that. Going to be seniors right now. So, or, going to their senior year. And I have talked to more coaches in the last month that are dialed in on 2026 players, because now the evaluation is at a point where the progression with some players wasn't there a year ago, and now they're extremely highly recruited, but you know a lot more about them and what they are. And so coaches are holding some spots, and they don't want to rush on that in general. So any player parent listening to this, just know that out of all the bad things, the bad changes that we've seen in college baseball and some of the things that we don't love, one of the things that I do like is the process has slowed. And you could say that's like, well, that might be frustrating for some players, and I get that. But the slowdown has really helped players, that developed late. They're kind of now back in the game a little bit more because they have the chance to kind of come in at the end and swoop in for one of those final spots. So just something in general there to keep in mind. If, you said, you guys do a heavy evaluation piece the summer prior to junior year, but that doesn't mean that stops, once you get to that fall and August 1 comes. You guys are going after certain guys and all that right away, but there are certain things that take time to play out, and it's okay. Don't panic. You're going to be fine if you're a really good player and you keep developing and you have the right plan. But make sure you have the right plan, because maybe there's a possibility that you're shooting too high as well, or you're a position that's just not going to be a need. That's going to be really tough to get. So just kind of ended on that. So let me go into one more, Josh. I appreciate your time. Again, if anyone has any questions, I usually get a bunch of questions, and I haven't had any tonight. So Josh, it sounds like you have answered everybody's questions, so there's no questions. But I'm going to go to one other one here, man. This is an interesting one. I'll pick this one just because it's personal. What are your professional goals?
My professional goals are getting to raise a family while staying in coaching. It's that simple. I am sitting here, and over the last 4 years, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of four consecutive 40-win seasons. Excuse me. Gotten the chance that I'm going to have 3 rings that I got backpacked by our players to be a part of. And you know what I've learned along the way, Justin, is that none of it matters if your family isn't happy. And I'm getting the opportunity to coach with one of my closest friends in James Ramsey and an awesome coaching staff of great people. I could not care less where my career ends up. All I care about is being with great people and having a wife and hopefully 2 daughters someday. You're still trying to get that figured out. I'm good on sons. It's all daughters now, man. I got enough of those guys to deal with. But hopefully having 2 daughters, and we don't have to have a concession on our family life just to pursue wearing a cooler t-shirt.
So great. I love that perspective, man. And I think we all have to be careful of what we're chasing and why we're chasing it, right? And what we're willing to what are you willing to take down in that process, right? And I think, it's sometimes I think some people can look back and be like, for what? And I think you have an amazing perspective on that and stuff too. And I just appreciate you, man. And I'll wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time. It's always great to catch up with you, and I appreciate the dialogue and all the insight that you gave tonight, man. Thank you so much, dude. I think you're awesome. Appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate you, Justin. And thanks for what you're doing to help take care of a lot of families across America, man.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, pal.